The mansion of Adrian Valente, a businessman renowned across Europe, was wrapped in an unusual silence that night. The marble-floored hallway reflected only the dim, golden glow of a few wall lamps, casting cold streaks of light. Where others might have found peace, Elena, the newly hired maid, felt an invisible weight pressing down on her chest. She clutched the edge of her apron, her slender hands trembling slightly. Every step she took echoed back at her like a warning. One mistake, just one, and she would be cast out. And if that happened, the hospital would no longer continue treatment for her younger brother. The thought alone made her chest tighten painfully. She entered the one place regarded as a sanctuary never to be disturbed, Adrian's bedroom. The air was colder here, as if warmth itself had long abandoned the room. On the ebony nightstand rested a single silver-framed photograph, not contracts, not awards, but of a young woman whose gentle smile pierced straight into Elena's heart. That woman was Isabella, Adrian's late wife. Elena reached out to wipe away a thin layer of dust. Then crack. The sharp sound sliced through the stillness like a blade. She froze. A corner of the glass had splintered, leaving a jagged line across the surface. The photo was intact, yet Isabella's face was now scarred by the fracture, like a wound that would never heal. The blood drained from Elena's face. Every servant had warned her, never touch that photograph. It is forbidden. Even the senior, butler, avoided it. And yet she, the desperate, clumsy newcomer, had done the very thing no one else dared. Elena collapsed onto her knees at the edge of the bed, clutching the frame tightly to her chest. No. God, please don't let me lose this job, she whispered, her voice breaking. Her hands pressed together in a frantic prayer, as if the silent walls might take pity on her. I'll do anything. I won't complain. I won't ask for anything. Just don't let him send me away. Tears spilled freely, soaking into her apron. In her mind, one image consumed all others. Luca, her frail younger brother, lay in a hospital bed, for lines running through his arm. He was waiting, clinging to life with every cent she earned. Losing this job meant losing Luca. Her sobs filled a vast room, raw and unrestrained, ricocheting off the high ceiling. She didn't hear the door opening downstairs, nor the heavy footsteps that followed. Adrian Valente had returned earlier than expected, weary of hollow conversations and smoke-filled gatherings. For him, home had become little more than an empty shell. But tonight, the mansion was not entirely silent. From above, he heard it, pleas choked with tears. He stopped, his brow furrowing. Someone was in the forbidden wing. His jaw tightened as he ascended the staircase, each step deliberate. He was a man no one dared to defy, a man who had sealed his heart since his wife's death. And yet, he was walking straight toward the sound of a prayer, one that was about to unlock a door he had sworn never to open again. The heavy oak door swung open, though Elena hadn't noticed. Light from the hallway spilled in, framing the tall figure of a man. Victor D'Alessandro, master of the mansion, stood there, his eyes like blades cutting through the dark. Elena froze, still clutching the fracture framed to her chest, tears streaking down her cheeks. When she realized Victor was watching her, her body turned rigid, as if the blood in her veins had solidified. His voice came, low and sharp. "What are you doing in my room?" The question was brief, but it carried the weight of a verdict. Elena stammered, lips trembling. I only meant to dust. It slipped from my hands. I didn't mean." Victor stepped forward, the door shutting behind him with a hard click. The atmosphere shifted instantly, thickening until it felt as though the very air was suffocating her. He lowered his gaze to the cracked frame. The face of Serafina, his late wife, stared out through the splintered glass. Her gentle smile was now marred by a jagged wound. For the briefest of moments, Victor's own features faltered his jaw tightening as if struck. But the weakness vanished as quickly as it appeared. His voice was hoarse, yet unyielding. "Do you understand this is the one forbidden thing in this house?" Elena trembled violently, tears falling faster. "Please believe me, I didn't mean to. I only wanted—" Victor's voice thundered, cutting her off. "Lies! No one dares touch Serafina's memory. And yet you, an outsider, barely a shadow in this house, defiled it." Elena shrank back, clutching the frame tighter, her terror suffocating her. Yet out of her desperation burst a raw, defiant cry. "I have no choice. If I lose this job, my sister will die. The hospital won't keep her without money." The word struck Victor like an arrow piercing through the armor he had forged around his heart. For a moment, his gaze flickered, unsettled. Then his fist clenched at his side, forcing the crack in his emotions shut. "Everyone begs when they're caught," he growled. "Do you think you're different?" Elena sobbed harder, her voice breaking with every syllable. "I am different because I truly have nothing left. I begged, I borrowed, I worked until my hands bled, all to keep my sister alive. I swear to you, I wasn't trying to break your rules. Please, don't send me away." The room sank into a silence, so heavy it pressed against her ribs. Victor's eyes locked onto her tear-streaked face. Small, fragile, yet blazing with a desperate fire of survival. Anger still simmered in his gaze, but behind it, something else flickered. Grief long buried and an ache he refused to name. Victor's silence stretched, heavy and suffocating. Elena knelt before him, her sobs the only sound in the cavernous room. He could have ended it with a single word, one command, and she would be gone, dismissed, forgotten like so many others before her. That was the way he lived. Decisive, merciless, unyielding. But this time, something stayed his tongue. His eyes fell once more to the cracked frame in her trembling hands. Serafina's smile, fractured by broken glass, seemed almost to mock him. For years, he had guarded this one relic as if by protecting it, he could preserve what he had lost. It was the last remnant of a life buried in tragedy. And now, a stranger had touched it, cracked it, yet refused to let it go, holding it as though it were her own lifeline. Victor's jaw clenched, but his voice, when it finally came, was quieter, rougher. "So, you were praying to the walls instead of speaking to me?" Elena's head shot up, startled. Her tear-filled eyes widened. I didn't think you'd listen. Everyone says you never forgive. That once you decide, it's over. I thought I was already finished." The words struck deeper than he expected. Never forgive. That was his reputation, wasn't it? Fear masquerading as respect. Loyalty bought not by trust, but by silence. He had built his empire on that image. But now, watching this girl crumple on the floor, he wondered if he had become the very monster people whispered about. He stepped forward. She flinched, but did not move away. Slowly, Victor bent down and took the frame from her hands. His fingers traced the cracked glass. For the first time in years, his chest ached, not with anger, but with something heavier. "It's broken," he murmured. "Glass can be replaced." He lifted his eyes to hers. "But you cannot." Elena's breath caught, her lips parted, disbelief painted across her face. "Sir, you mean?" Victor straightened, his expression hardening once more, though the cruelty was gone. "I should fire you. That is what's expected of me. But I won't." A sob escaped her lips, fresh tears streaming down. You let me stay?" His tone sharpened again, though it lacked venom. "Don't mistake this for pity. If you want to survive here, don't beg the walls. Look at me. Face me. Do you understand?" Elena nodded frantically, her voice a whisper. "Yes, sir." Victor turned toward the door, pausing with his hand on the knob. His shoulders stiffened. Tomorrow we'll discuss your hours and your sister's hospital bills. Her gasp filled the room, raw and stunned. You helped me? He didn't look back. I don't give charity. I don't tolerate weakness. But I will not stand by and watch someone pray to ghosts while I'm alive. And with that, he left. For the first time, Elena's tears were not only of despair. They carried something new. Hope, fragile but burning. Victor's footsteps echoed down the corridor as he left the room. Each strike of leather against marble steady, controlled. But his chest was not steady at all. Something stirred inside him. Something he had fought to bury beneath years of discipline and cold resolve. He entered his study, shutting the door harder than necessary. The silence there felt different, no longer a shield, but a weight. He poured himself a glass of brandy. Though his hand lingered too long on the decanter, Elena's voice still clung to him. If I lose this job, my sister will die. Victor closed his eyes, pressing 2 fingers against the bridge of his nose. How many times had he dismissed people without a second thought? How many lives had crumbled because of his uncompromising rules? He had never cared until now. Perhaps it was the way she had held Serafina's picture, as if it were her own salvation, or the way her voice cracked, not rehearsed, not manipulative, but raw. For the first time in years, weakness had not disgusted him. It had unsettled him. He looked across the room, where Serafina's portrait hung above the fireplace. Her painted eyes, gentle and unyielding, seemed to watch him. What would you say, Serafina? Would you call me cruel? Or would you remind me that glass is not the same as flesh? Meanwhile, upstairs, Elena sat on the edge of the bed, still trembling. Her tears not yet dry, but they were different now. Amid the exhaustion and fear, there was a spark, a fragile hope she had not dared to imagine. He hadn't dismissed her. He had spoken of her sister's bills. Could it be true? Could a man with such a reputation actually care? Her chest rose and fell, uneven but alive with new determination. She whispered into the empty room, Luca, just a little longer. I'll keep fighting. Back in the study, Victor drained the untouched brandy in a single swallow. He hated the way her desperation had pierced him, hated the unfamiliar warmth in his chest. Yet beneath the anger was something undeniable, a reminder that he was still human. The house was no longer silent. It pulsed with something he hadn't felt in years, life fragile and stubborn. Victor set down the glass, his reflection fractured by the amber liquid. For the first time, he wondered if his fortress of rules was not protecting him, but imprisoning him. The following morning, dawn spilled pale light across the mansion's vast windows. The silence was different now, less like a cage, more like a breath held between 2 choices. Victor stood at the head of the dining table, his coffee untouched, papers spread before him. His nights were usually untroubled, but this one had stretched long, restless. Elena's face, tear-streaked yet defiant, had haunted him in every shadow. When the butler entered to announce breakfast, Victor raised a hand. Send her in. Minutes later, Elena appeared in the doorway. She had tried to compose herself, hair neatly tied, uniform pressed, but her eyes betrayed the storm within. She expected dismissal, expected the end, yet she walked forward, spine straight, as if daring herself not to crumble. Victor studied her silently. The usual harshness in his gaze was tempered, though Elena could not name the difference. Finally, he spoke, his voice low but deliberate. You broke the rule, he said. Yes, sir, she whispered. You touched what was not yours. Yes. And yet, he paused, leaning back slightly, eyes narrowing. You pleaded, not for yourself, but for someone else. That is not weakness. That is something I have not seen in a very long time. Elena's breath caught. She lowered her head, waiting, I should let you go, Victor continued, but I will not. From this day forward, you will remain here, not because I forgive easily, but because your fight is not over, and neither, perhaps, is mine. Her eyes lifted sharply, hope flaring like sunlight through cracks. You mean, I will handle your sister's hospital bills, but in return, you will work harder than you ever have. You will stand tall, not kneel in shadows. Do you understand? Tears welled, but this time they did not fall from despair. They burned with gratitude, with relief. I understand, sir. Victor's expression hardened again, though his words carried an unfamiliar weight. Do not mistake this for kindness. This is a contract. You fight for her. I fight for something I have forgotten. Perhaps, together, we may remember what it means to live. The air between them shifted, no longer servant and master, but two lives colliding, tethered by need and unspoken scars. As Elena bowed her head, whispering a trembling thank you, Victor turned toward the window. Outside, the world was awakening, and for the first time in years, he allowed himself to believe that maybe he could, too.